Summary of The Devil's Daughter, written by Greisman. Chapter 1. In the twilight of his years, Jack found himself navigating a world increasingly obscured by the haze of physical decline. His hearing, once sharp as a hawk's, now failed him, leaving him to fumble with a hearing aid that offered little respite from the infernal buzzing that plagued its use. Memories of days past crowded his thoughts, mingling with the present in a disjointed dance of nostalgia and regret. His vision, too, betrayed him, forcing him to rely on thick-lensed glasses scattered across his home like forgotten relics. The world, once vivid and clear, now appeared as a blurry tableau, its edges softened by the passage of time. Yet, amidst the fog of his senses, fragments of his past emerged with startling clarity, as if etched into the very fabric of his being. Jack's reminiscences were a tapestry woven from the threads of a life well lived, though not without its share of missteps and missed opportunities. He recalled his first love, Mary O'Callaghan, whose gentle touch had stirred within him a tumult of emotions he had yet to comprehend. Their brief encounter, though fleeting, left an indelible mark upon his soul, shaping the contours of his romantic journey in ways he could scarcely imagine. But it was Tracy who held the key to his heart, her presence a balm to his weary spirit in a world fraught with uncertainty. Theirs was a love tempered by the passage of time, its flame burning steady and true through the ebb and flow of life's vicissitudes. Together, they weathered the storms of youth and emerged stronger for it, their bond forged in the crucible of shared laughter and whispered confidences. Yet, even as Tracy's memory lingered like a ghost in the corridors of his mind, Jack found himself haunted by the specter of what might have been. Regrets, like shadows cast upon the walls of his consciousness, danced in silent reproach, reminding him of the moments he had let slip through his fingers like grains of sand. It was in these moments of reflection that the boundaries between past and present blurred, giving rise to apparitions of long-forgotten faces and places. Edie Marks, with her smoky gaze and enigmatic smile, materialized in the mirror before him, a vestige of a time when passion burned bright and unbridled. Carmine Rizzo, too, emerged from the depths of memory, his words laden with the weight of a bygone era when honor and loyalty held sway over the streets of New York City. But amidst the cacophony of voices clamoring for his attention, there was one that rang out clear and true, the voice of Sarah, his daughter, whose unwavering presence anchored him to the present moment. Through the wonders of modern technology, they bridged the gap between generations, their conversations a lifeline stretched across the vast expanse of time and space. And yet, for all his efforts to remain tethered to reality, Jack found himself adrift in a sea of longing and loss, the specter of Tracy's absence casting a pall over his days. Her absence, like a wound that refused to heal, gnawed at the edges of his consciousness, a constant reminder of the fragility of life and the inevitability of death. In the quiet moments of solitude, Jack sought solace in the familiar rhythms of his daily routine, finding comfort in the mundane tasks that anchored him to the present moment. He reveled in the simple pleasures of a good book or a well-brewed cup of coffee, savoring each moment as if it were his last. For Jack, the passage of time was not a burden to be borne, but a gift to be cherished, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. Though his body may have faltered, his spirit remained unbroken, a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. As the shadows lengthened and the day gave way to night, Jack settled into his armchair, content in the knowledge that he had lived a life filled with love and laughter, sorrow and joy. And though the road ahead may be fraught with uncertainty, he faced it with a quiet resolve, knowing that the echoes of his past would guide him through the darkness, lighting the way to a future yet unwritten. As the evening sun cast long shadows through the window of Jack's cozy apartment, he settled into his favorite armchair, the worn leather creaking softly beneath him. Outside, the city bustled with the energy of life and motion, but within the confines of his home, a quiet stillness prevailed, a sanctuary from the noise and chaos of the world beyond. With a sigh, Jack closed his eyes, allowing the memories to wash over him like a gentle tide. He could still recall the days of his youth, with startling clarity, the images as vivid as if they had happened only yesterday. Mary O'Callaghan, with her fiery red hair and mischievous grin, had been his first love, a fleeting moment of passion amidst the tumult of adolescence. But it was Tracy who had captured his heart, her presence a beacon of light in the darkness of his world, They had met by chance in a smoky jazz club in Greenwich Village, their connection instantaneous and undeniable. From that moment on, they had been inseparable, their lives intertwining in ways that defied explanation. Together, they had navigated the highs and lows of married life, their bond growing stronger with each passing year. They had weathered the storms of parenthood and career, finding solace in the simple pleasures of shared laughter and quiet companionship. And though their love had not always been easy, it had been worth every moment of struggle and sacrifice. As the years had passed, Jack had watched in awe as Tracy blossomed into her own, her spirit shining bright even in the darkest of times. She had been his rock, his anchor in a world adrift, and he had loved her more fiercely than he had ever thought possible. But then, like a thief in the night, cancer had stolen her from him, leaving behind only memories and regrets. Jack had mourned her passing with a grief that threatened to consume him, his world crumbling around him like a house of cards. And yet, somehow, he had found the strength to carry on, to honor her memory in every breath he took. In the years that followed, Jack had found solace in the familiar routines of daily life, finding comfort in the mundane tasks that filled his days. He had embraced the solitude of his own company, finding peace in the quiet moments of reflection that had once seemed so daunting. And though the specter of Tracy's absence still haunted him, he had come to accept it as a part of who he was, a testament to the depth of his love and the pain of his loss. For in the end, it was not the years that defined him, but the moments he had shared with those he held dear, the echoes of a life well lived, reverberating through the corridors of time. As Jack opened his eyes once more, a sense of calm washed over him, the weight of the world lifting from his shoulders like a heavy burden. Outside, the city continued to pulse with life, its rhythm a reminder of the endless cycle of birth and death, love and loss. But within the confines of his apartment, a different kind of peace prevailed, a quiet acceptance of all that had come before and all that was yet to come. And as the evening sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, Jack settled into his chair once more, content in the knowledge that he had lived a life filled with love and laughter, sorrow and joy, a life worth remembering, in all its messy, beautiful glory. Chapter 2. Jack Malone sat across from Richie Costello in his small, dimly lit kitchen, a room that bore the scars of countless conversations and the aroma of yesterday's coffee lingering in the air. The tension in the room was palpable as Richie, a Monsignor and executive secretary to Cardinal Spellman, leaned forward, his eyes fixed on a woman named V, whose presence seemed to disrupt the sanctity of the space. Richie's well-manicured fingers drummed nervously on the worn kitchen table, betraying the unease that lurked beneath his polished exterior. His sharp gaze remained fixed on V, who, despite the discomfort, exuded an air of nonchalance as she reclined in her chair. Jack couldn't help but notice Richie's inappropriate fixation on V, a detail that felt at odds with his religious vocation. "Jack," Richie finally spoke, breaking the awkward silence, "His Eminence would consider it a personal favor if you would look into the matter for him." Jack tore his gaze away from V to meet Richie's earnest eyes, sensing that there was more to this request than a simple missing person case. V, seemingly uninterested in the gravity of the situation, toyed with a strand of her dark hair, her eyes revealing a mischievous glint. "Lewis Garrett has been generous to the church, despite not being a member of the flock," Richie continued, attempting to steer the conversation back to the matter at hand. "And from what I understand, his daughter is basically a good kid, a little confused maybe, but what teenager isn't?" Jack, familiar with Richie from the old neighborhood, cut to the chase. "How long has she been gone?" he inquired, his detective instincts kicking in. "Just a few nights," Richie replied, his facade showing signs of strain. "There's probably a perfectly innocent explanation, but her father is very worried." Skepticism crept into Jack's voice. "Then why doesn't he call the police?" "Mr. Garrett would rather keep it a private matter and only inform the authorities if it's absolutely necessary," Richie explained, attempting to justify the secrecy. But Jack wasn't convinced. This kind of secrecy might work in certain situations, but it seemed disproportionate for a teenager who might have just sneaked out for a couple of nights. "Can I get you something a little stronger than that cup of coffee, Father?" V interjected, standing up and addressing Richie. "You look like you could use it." Without waiting for a response, B sauntered over to the sideboard, poured 3 fingers of Irish whiskey over rocks for Richie, and another 3 neat for herself. Her deliberate movements and a subtle display of cleavage were aimed at discomfiting the Monsignor, who had been unable to tear his eyes away from her. Jack shot V a stern look, urging her to show more respect, but she remained unyielding. V's nonchalant demeanor was a stark contrast to Richie's unease, and Jack couldn't help but feel a sense of amusement mixed with annoyance at her deliberate provocations. In the world V came from, such behavior might be expected, but here in the heart of a serious conversation, it bordered on sacrilegious. The Thelonious Monk had introduced Jack to V in the past, connecting them in a way that felt both fateful and inexplicable. Despite her provocative exterior, Jack couldn't deny the allure and mystery that surrounded her. Her life story, a tapestry of failed marriages and a successful modeling career, painted a picture of resilience and independence. As Richie nervously sipped his whiskey, Jack considered the strange mix of characters in his kitchen: a Monsignor, a mysterious woman with a turbulent past, and himself, a private investigator with a history that straddled the boundary between skepticism and curiosity. "I can't imagine this will take up too much of your time, Jack," Richie spoke again, regaining some composure. "And Mr. Garrett will pay handsomely for your services." Richie's words brought Jack back to the task at hand. The missing girl, Lewis Garrett's daughter, remained a puzzle that needed solving. Despite his reservations about religious authority and sanctimony, Jack found himself agreeing to help. "I can't make any promises," he said, looking directly at Richie, "but I'll talk to this guy Garrett, if that's what you want." "It's not what I want, Jack, it's what His Eminence wants," Richie emphasized, reminding Jack of the higher stakes involved. "Well, in that case, how can I possibly refuse?" Jack responded, a wry smile playing on his lips. The convergence of conflicting elements, religious authority, personal history, and the enigmatic V, set the stage for an investigation that promised to unravel more than just the mystery of a missing teenager.